Welcome, listener. I speak to you in January of the year 2022 of the Common Era. My name is Benji, and this is the 10 hottest, spiciest, and most appreciated games of the last year. Why do this now, you ask? Well, there is of course such a thing as letting the dust settle, and as this list is not necessarily my personal opinion, but largely that of the Board Game Geek community, it takes a little bit of time to collect the necessary empirical data. And so please join me as I learn to count from 10 to 1. But not until after we stroll down Honourable Mention Lane. Yep, that's right, the list proper has no room for iterations, reprints, second editions and general rehashing. So a quick nod to 2 that could have made the list. The Crew Mission Deep Sea is the next iteration for an evolutionary cooperative trick-taking game, taking you from outer space, where there's no oxygen, to underwater, where we'd need gills to get to the oxygen, which for some will prove tricky. Maybe that's why you can't speak in the game. And then there's a little card game port of the almighty Terraforming Mars. Simply put, imagine playing their base game without the board and you're not a million miles away from what this little piggy is. With honour satisfied then, please subscribe to the channel to keep apprised with what we do and smash that like button. Both of these actions really do go a long way. Right, now, I've psyched myself up and I'm ready to play this counting game. Number 10, Hadrian's Wall, is representing in both the flip and right and the oh my good god that's a lot to take in one piece of paper categories. But then it clicks and you're in for a treat, because this game that plays over 6 rounds that represent in-game years sees you as a Roman general constructing the titular row of bricks, manning its defences and somewhat randomly attracting civilians by providing services and entertainment. Like many flip or roll and writes, this scales well and gives it its all to fill a niche of being a fairly complex pen and paper game. Number 9, Canvas, sees you take the guise of a painter competing in an art competition in all its abstract glory. But do not be deceived, this is no Dixit clone where you're trying to make sense of the colour collage in front of you. Nope, this is straight up card drafting with pretty pictures. With the twist being the cards you draft are semi-transparent and overlay each other until 3 cards link together to make one complete painting. The better you then meet the global objectives, the bigger you play Happy Face. Number 8, Cubitos, coolly proclaims that push your luck and racing games go hand in glove. Oh, and cutesy artwork and tidy production values help make a winner too. The biggest task here is wrapping your head around the fact that you are a cube, and cube is life. The rest ponders the existential question, if a game doesn't stop me rolling and re-rolling dice, when will I go bust and cancel my turn? That simple quandary is more than enough to keep this game of dice rolling and pool building sky high in terms of fun factor and engagement. Number 7, Meadow, is where we go full set collection and card drafting with a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of unique cards to choose from. But first you have 2 choices to make each turn. A, place a token on the main board and draw and play a card, so long as you've already populated your tableau appropriately. Or B, place a token on the campfire board, which acts as your means to carry out special actions and claim goals that get you points. Straightforward and pretty, with more than enough game to keep you coming back for more, is all you really need. Number 6, Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile, could either be the next evolution of campaign games or a highly respected one-off. For sure, the ambition is there in this telling of the cyclical nature of kingdoms, with you as both observers and protagonists to this familiar tale of rising power and ultimate downfall. But where this game of area control and diplomacy differs is that it goes that one step further and changes the conventions and available actions in each subsequent play of the game, meaning you need to fully commit to reap its rewards. Number 5, Destinies takes a retro concept that have a story-driven choose-your-own-adventure type RPG and incorporates an app to do a lot of the mechanical heavy lifting for you. This is also a game that wears its low complexity t-shirt loud and proud, because although there is character progression and dice rolling, this is all about the storytelling and ultimately your character's personal narrative as they look to fulfill their own destiny, often to the detriment and indirect hindrance of other players. But remember, it's about the journey, not the destination. Number 4, Ark Nova is the fastest rising game on this list as it's still not been released worldwide, but the buzz is real around this zoo builder that sees you building enclosures, accommodating animals and supporting conservation projects the world over. The crux of the game centres around 5 available action cards and their waxing and waning power dependent on the slot they currently occupy, doing a great job of encouraging diverse play in what is a fairly non-interactive Euro style game that eschews conventional rounds and endgame conditions. Number 3, Ankh Gods of Egypt sits in a fitting position on this tier list as it's also the final part of Eric Lang's mythic trilogy and sees you playing gods of ancient Egypt competing to survive, and where every action you take will bring you one step closer to a board state changing global event. It also brings a neat little catch-up mechanic that sees the struggling players teaming up for one last hurrah. This is area control first and foremost, much like its siblings, but positioning and movement are key, and the gods themselves provide an impactful presence at all times. Number 2, Sleeping Gods is the latest and greatest from the multi-talented Ryan Lockett, in which you take up the mantle of the crew of the steamship Manticore in strange, unexplored territories. This storybook adventure sees you on a quest to find 14 hidden totems, and although on the one hand this could be considered more complex than your average exploration game, that's due more to its difficulty and need to min-max your crew's growing skill set than an overly burdensome set of rules. But as campaign games go, this is accessibility and immersion in a box. And number 1, Cascadia just pipped Sleeping Gods to the top spot at this time and in this place, maybe in part because straightforward and wholesome is more than enough to cleanse the palate and appeal to a wide audience. This tile placement game sees you drafting the aforementioned cardboard hexagons into your own tableaued habitats. But each tile comes paired with an animal token that must be placed on your tiles in accordance with the differing global objectives that ultimately dictate how points are scored. A highly replayable game that has just enough meat on the bone to entertain even a grizzled board game veteran. But before we go, how's about a couple of speculations as to other games that were released but are either slow burning their way up the leaderboard or only came out like 10 minutes before Old Year's End? Titles that I predict with zero hesitation would make this list if it were to be made 1 year from today. First up we have Radlands, a competitive dueling card game where synergy is the aim of the game and a communal draw deck provides the means to combo wombo. And secondly we have Unsettled, a cooperative survival game that eschews enemies and combat for the harsh environments of the cosmos, bringing worker placement and task management to the fore. Expect big things from both of these bad boys. And so, dear listener, this has been the top 10 most beloved games of 2021, subject to change and flux as the months and years pass, but here frozen in time for prosperity and edutainment. Is there anything you might have had on this list? Let me know in the comments below. Alas, I have been the voice of Benji, and this video has ended.